Okay, welcome. Let's start the last session. So welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are going to have the last session of this virtual learning exchange for CTI under the EU Ocean Governance Project. And this session is complementary to the previous one we had also about agreements for transboundary cooperation. So as you have seen during the different exchanges these days, a lot of things happen when we talk about marine conservation and when we talk about management of marine protected areas and planning and identification. A lot of things happen in a space that requires cooperation between stakeholders, between local actors, between national actors, but also cooperation across the borders, cooperation between countries. Sometimes this cooperation is informal, such in the cases of some of the networks of managers we saw or other institutions, in this just at the technical level. Sometimes this cooperation is more political and even reaches the establishment of common agreements to have a set of objectives stated by different countries together. So in this context, I'm really glad to present today a very nice example of these multilateral agreements for marine conservation. And this is the case of, in my region in the Mediterranean, is the case of the Paragus sanctuary. So the Paragus sanctuary is a great surface of the Mediterranean that is protected for marine mammals, for cetaceans mainly, and it was created by a common agreement between 3 countries. So this is going to be explained in detail by our speaker, our first speaker, which is Maxime Trapani. Maxime Trapani is an assistant to the Executive Secretary of the Paragus Agreement since July 2020. He graduated in the International Relations and Political Science from the University of Geneva. His academic background naturally led him to the world of politics and international affairs, first as parliamentary assistant in Monaco, then as attaché on health and humanitarian issues at the permanent mission of the Principality of Monaco to the United Nations office in Geneva. He then joined the Permanent Secretariat of the Paragus Agreement. So now I'm glad to give the floor to Maxime for this presentation about this agreement that I'm sure will also motivate our audience today to maybe think on future equivalent agreements for marine mammals in Coral Triangle or in other regions of the world. So Maxime, thank you for being here and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Puri. Thank you, everybody. Good morning, everybody. My name is Maxime Trapani, and I'm assistant to the Executive Secretary of the Paragus Agreement. We are based in Monaco. I would like to thank the organizers for having convened me to this meeting, and I transmit the greetings of Ms. Costanza Favilli, the Executive Secretary, who unfortunately could not be there today. So let me share my screen and I will start the presentation. Do you see it?
Yes, yes, we see.
Oh, okay, perfect. So let me start by a general presentation. Oh, I don't know if it works. Yeah, okay. Sorry, let me start by a general presentation of the Paragus Agreement, background and objectives. So the Paragus Agreement for the creation of a sanctuary for marine mammals in the Mediterranean is a tripartite international agreement between Italy, France, and the Principality of Monaco. It was signed in Rome on November 25th, 1999, and entered into force on February 21st, 2002. What is the main objective of the agreement is to protect marine mammals and their habitats from all possible causes of disturbance, be it noise, pollution, bycatch and injury, disturbances, etc. The sanctuary, as you can see on this slide, covers an area of 87,500 square kilometers between the three countries. It has a 2,022 kilometer coastline, and it counts 241 municipalities in the area. And in the Mediterranean, the Paragus Sanctuary has been recognized as a specially protected area of Mediterranean importance, or SPAMI, by the Barcelona Convention. And it's also a pilot area of the ACOBANT agreements, which is the agreement for the conservation of cetaceans in the Black Sea, Mediterranean Sea, and contiguous Atlantic area. The originality of the sanctuary lies in the fact that it constitutes a tripartite management area in a coastal and high waters territory that is considered to be a large ecosystem of considerable scientific, socio-economic, and cultural interest. So why this area? The idea of establishing the Pedagogues Sanctuary in the area of a Corsican Ligurian basin, a provincial basin, stems from the observation that in this area there were a large population of marine mammals which were attracted by high primary productivity. A Roth estimates indicates the presence of more than 8,500 microscopic animal species, representing between 4 and 18% of the world's marine species. This is therefore a significant biodiversity area, particularly in terms of a number of predators, such as marine mammals, which are on the top of the trophic chain. And considering also that the Mediterranean occupies only 0.82% of the surface and 0.32% of the volume of the world's oceans. So basically in the 80s, and particularly in 1988, mainly bycatches of dolphins in fishermen's gear nets were observed. So the Rotary clubs that you can see here of Saint-Tropez, Milano Porta Vercelli, and Monaco, but also Greenpeace and Thetis Research Institute alerted the authorities to take action. And after a decade of discussions and negotiations, the Paragus Agreement was born. This area is also under pressure from numerous human activities, creating serious problems for marine mammal populations. So the Pedagogues Sanctuary must reconcile the harmonious development of socio-economic activities with the necessary protection of habitats and the species which are living inside. So what are the species of the sanctuary? Oh, sorry. So we have 8 species of marine mammals that are frequently observed in the Paragus Sanctuary and that are protected by the agreement. So we have the Odontocetes, which are toothed cetaceans, like the striped dolphin, the common dolphin, the Cuvier's big whale, the bottlenose dolphin, the longfin pilot whale, and the sperm whale and the Risso's dolphin. We have also the Mysticetes, which are cetaceans equipped with baleen, and they are filtering water for feeding, like the fin whale, which is the second largest animal on Earth. And I would like also to pinpoint the fact that there are also the pinnipeds, like the monk seal. It's also a marine mammal protected by the agreement, and it kind of disappeared of the sanctuary. But recently he has been spotted in Tuscany, and we hope that this is a good sign for a return of the species in the area. So what are the main threats? So I listed them here and put some pictures. So let's start by pollution. As we all know, the Mediterranean is a sun-closed sea, and therefore a sea in which levels of pollutions can be concentrated. We have the problems of plastics and chemical pollution. Pollution has impacts on marine population, of course, and because it makes them weaker and more susceptible to contracting diseases. Global warming can also cause a change in the characteristics of the marine habitats, and thus a necessary adaptation of the marine mammals. For example, global warming can lead to a decrease in zooplankton population. This is the krill on which the fin whales feed. And if this decrease is substantial, then the fin whales will be forced to move elsewhere where they can find nutrients to survive. We have also the issue of noise, because noise pollution is due to movement of boats during nautical events, also works at seas like geoseismical prospections and military activities, for example. And it is a major disturbance for cetaceans for whom sound is an existential factor. Cetaceans have a high acoustic capacity to communicate with other animals and to orient themselves in the marine environment, and also for hunting. So noise that interfere with their sound waves, they make them particularly vulnerable from a reproductive point of view. They can also cause a temporary hearing loss or permanent one. And they have psychological costs for the animals, as they produce stress to the extent that it also can be the cause of collective stranding off the shores. We have also the issue of ship strikes, which are the first non-natural death cause for large cetaceans. Bycatch that have been on the origin of the creation of the sanctuary, also because dolphins, they often hunt their prey in the fisherman gears, as it's an opportunistic behavior, thus creating tension with fishermen. Disturbances like the activities linked to ocean sighting, also known as whale watching, if they are not run sustainably, then it can cause great disturbances to animals. And then we have, as I said, climate change, habitat loss, and diseases, which are all connected all together. So let me now turn on, I don't know if it works, no? Okay. On the Paragus Agreement General Organization. You can see on this slide the organization chart of the Paragus Agreement. We have the working groups. They meet and discuss subjects and priorities identified by the parties who decide on their creation. And they form the skeleton of the work between regular meetings of the parties and also on the scientific and technical committee. They are composed of experts on different subjects of their mandates. Then we have the scientific and technical committee. It is a body collaborating with the Permanent Secretariat and the national focal points. And it is composed of a chairman, which is designed for 2 years. And the chairmanship rotates between the member states. We have a head of delegation and members for each member state, experts as appropriate, and observers. The Scientific and Technical Committee provides to the party with opinions and advice on the implementation of the objectives of the agreement, and it assists the Permanent Secretariat in the preparation of resolutions, that's the ones that are taken at the meeting of the parties, recommendations that are taken in the Scientific and Technical Committee, but also on guidelines, working programs, and international priorities. The meeting of the parties will be called to deliberate upon the ratification of the proposals of the Scientific and Technical Committee, established in accordance with the management plan and the priority actions. The last meeting of this Scientific and Technical Committee was held in July 2021, and the next meeting will be held on March 2022. And during this next meeting, the presidency, the chairmanship, which is currently assumed by France, will pass to the Principality of Monaco. Then we have the meeting of the parties. I have the feeling it takes a little bit of time to, okay. So the meeting of the parties is the decisional body of the agreement. It's called on to approve the recommendations that were taken by the previous body, so the Scientific and Technical Committee, and it defines the priorities of the agreements on the medium and the long term, with the approval of the biennium working programs, but also on the management plan, which is a document, a 6-year term document, and from the one from which all the working programs derive. And all this is taken via resolutions. And according to Article 14 of the Paragus Agreement, each member state is responsible for ensuring the implementation of the provision of the agreement on its own territories, meaning that the resolutions will be applied at the national level. The meeting of the parties is composed by a chairman who rotates each 2 years. The national delegations of the 3 parties, composed by a head of delegation and members to whom experts of their choice can be added as required. The staff of the Permanent Secretariat, of course, and the observers. The meeting of the party, the ordinary meeting of the party, takes place every 2 years, in turn in the country which will take the chairmanship. The chairmanship is currently held by the Principality of Monaco, and during the next meeting, which will be held in Rome in December of this year, it will pass to Italy. Then let me just say a few words on the Permanent Secretariat. So it's composed of 2 persons, the Executive Secretary, Mrs. Costanza Favilli, and myself. And we are located in Monaco, in the Principality of Monaco. And our main mission, sorry, I'm a bit sick. And the main missions of the Permanent Secretariat is to coordinate the different entities of the agreement and assist the scientific and technical committee and also the meeting of the parties to ensure the implementation of the agreement's objectives and resolutions, ensure the financial management of the agreement in accordance with the decisions of the meeting of the parties, to represent the Paragus agreements before local, regional, and international bodies, draw the attention on the parties on any relevant issues. And the Permanent Secretariat is in regular, let's say, daily contact with the parties through the national focal points who are appointed by the parties. So the Paragus agreement is a unique cooperation setup. And it distincts itself from the other international agreements by a very strong territorial anchorage, in particular with the coastal communities through the adhesion to the Pedagogues Partnership Charter, whose objectives are to render the sanctuary more concrete in the eyes of the public. Also, the Pedagogues ambassadors, who are committed to the protection of marine mammals in the Mediterranean Sea by disseminating the best practices and the values of the agreement, notably the Code of Good Conduct, which has been developed by the Paragus Agreement and the ACOBAMS agreements. And anyone can be easily become a Paragus ambassador by clicking on a dedicated link on the website. We have also the high quality whale watching certified operators, because as we know, cetacean sightings have significantly developed in the 90s in the Mediterranean, and this caused a pressure on the animals, and in order not to disturb them and their activities like feeding, socialization, and also the presence of younger individuals, the operators, it has been developed a training course for operators and the label, which is the high quality whale watching label, in order to make them aware to respect some good practices, and also to raise people awareness on the respect of basic rules for this activity to take place in conditions that are respectful for the animals. And we have also the importance of the scientists who are important in the Paragus network, because they advance knowledge about marine mammals, and they can, on the direct and indirect impacts of the human activities, and thus can help in decision making for unproven studies. At the international level, And also at national level, the Permanent Secretariat, on behalf of the parties and also the parties by themselves, they finance regularly studies. And for example, at the international level, we have co-financed 4 international projects on the agreement's priorities, and these projects finished last year and 2 years ago. And these projects were on ship strikes, species distribution, contamination, and plastic pollution. So on this slide that I put here, you have also some results that have been taken on the Pedagogues agreement since the last 20 years. On management, we can say that all marine mammals are protected by the laws of the parties to the agreement. The drift nets have been banned, and this was, like I said before, one of the causes of the creation of the sanctuary. Motorboat racing is regulated or prohibited. We had the creation of the high-quality whale watching label, as I told you before, developed jointly with ACOMAPS. We have also a lot of awareness-raising results with the partnership charter with municipalities. We product also dissemination material, the Paragus Ambassador Initiative on the internet website, awareness-raising campaigns, and also the Code of Good Conduct. And we try also to contribute to knowledge by funding studies, by working in contact with the national stranding networks, managing research on the sanctuary, like for example on declaration or derogations when scientists apply for some studies that they are wishing to do in the waters of the sanctuary. We also try to draft and implement terms of reference for research, and we enhance partnership networks with international governative organization, NGOs, associations, universities, research institutes, etc. So what are the next steps and the way forward for the Paragus agreement? So as I told you before, the next meeting of the parties will be held in Rome on the 15th and 16th December 2021, and it will also be in video conference. And the main objectives is to adopt a series of important documents, particularly the 2022-2027 management plan. The document will guide the action of the Paragus agreements for the 6 years to come, setting the priorities in the medium term. Briefly, it has been prepared starting from an assessment of the current management plan, which will expire at the end of this year. And the main objective of this new management plan is to implement a new modus operandi, strengthening the international collaboration between the parties, and also on the governance point of view, to create and tighten a Paragus network of experts and stakeholders, to enhance, of course, the participative governance, which is very important for the parties. So we try to pinpoint this on the new management plan. We will also, create new working groups, new partnerships, and the working groups will be created, let's say, in the first 3 months of 2022. And we will launch a call of interest to take part in these working groups. If you're interested, I mean, you feel free to ask. So we really count on the fact that we want to have new experts and to tighten everybody to work on the priority for the protection of marine mammals. We will also shift the rationale on the approach of the way the things are conducted, meaning that before we had more the focus on species, and now we are shifting on pressures rather than species. And even if, of course, species will be at the center of the next working programs. We will also launch the Pedagogues Voluntary Fund, which will be a fund on which everyone can contribute. It's aimed to multiply donors in order to support the activities of the agreement. And it will be launched, we hope, in January 2022. so right after the COP. We will make efforts toward harmonization of procedures, governance, also on the way the Paragus Partnership Charter is signed, for example, in France and Italy. We will implement high-level priorities, themes which are led by the parties to mitigate the impacts of pollution of different sources and the ship strikes with large cetaceans, and implement mitigation measures. And with this, the management plan is, let's say, a chapeau document, and we will have the 2022-2023 working program. So the main activities will be the fundraising through the launch of the Pedagogues Voluntary Fund, as I told before, for the implementation of the management plan and the action plan. We will activate the group through the call of interest. We'll strengthen and develop the Pedagogues initiatives. Think about the way to engage more the municipalities in the Pedagogues Partnership Charter. We will rethink also the Pedagogues Ambassador initiatives, etc. We will enhance the network and develop a sense of belonging to the Pedagogues community, also through partnership with international governmental organizations, NGOs, universities, and also territorial administrations like regions and départements in France and provinces in Italy. We will map the species and the threats, and we'll also make an initial assessment of the species and the pressures. And we will also harmonize and simplify governance procedures, working methods, etc., etc. So just to conclude, the Pedagogues Sanctuary was born 22 years ago. A lot has been made and innovative tools have been created, and there's still a lot to do to reach the goal of the Paragus Agreement, which is to protect the marine mammals and their habitats in a particularly rich but fragile area in the Mediterranean. As the Paragus Agreement is reaching its 20th anniversary since its entry into force, new challenges arise, and the implementation of the 2022-2027 management plan will be an exciting moment for the staff of the Permanent Secretariat, but also for the parties and the stakeholders. And I really would like to thank you again for having convening me to this meeting. And here you can find our social media and contacts. If you wish to contact us, feel free. And I stay at your disposal for any questions. And I hope I didn't go over my time.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you, Maxime. It was a little bit long, but I think it deserves, because I know this is a topic of great interest in the Coral Triangle area. So since you are only two speakers, and Jean-Jacques said that his presentation is short, so I think it's good to have the time to enter in the details. So we'll reduce probably the number of questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Let's move to the next speaker, which is Jean-Jacques Boussard. And Jean-Jacques, is a biologist and a consultant for nature conservation. He worked in both the terrestrial and the marine environments, and he's really a specialist of the intermediate area. I will say that you are mainly a coastal lover. You love the coast and all the coastal processes, and now you work a lot on resilience. And you also have a large experience in many areas of the world. One of them is in the African continent, especially in West Africa. So Jean-Jacques today will tell us a little bit about the future of the transboundary cooperation in Western Africa. Jean-Jacques, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pauline, for this nice introduction. I will share my screen. Okay, you see my screen? It's okay?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to make this presentation on transboundary MPAs in Western and Central Africa. It will be a very brief overview, because right now I'm not working exactly on this topic, but I've been leading the regional coastal management master plan for 11 countries in Western Africa, from Mauritania to Benin, which was a precursor to the big World Bank program now operating, which name is Western Africa Coastal Adaptation. This program aims to work with 17 countries, but now they are working with 8 or 9 countries, as I know. And I've been also leading the preparation of the regional strategy for MPAs in Central Africa, not in Western Africa, Central Africa. So I will try to share this experience. So between Western and Central Africa, we have significant difference. The context is really very different. The coastline is very sensitive and mobile. More or less in Western Africa, rocky coast is less than 3% of all the coast. They are sedimentary coastline, very mobile. We have a dense and widespread human occupation, but this human occupation for sure is limited in mangrove coast for evident reasons, and is limited on desertic coasts such as Mauritania coast. To give an idea, in 2010, we have been undertaking a prospective study of the population, of the coastal population. And if we consider all the towns with more than 10,000 inhabitants on the 11 countries, from Mauritania to Benin, we had 18 million inhabitants. We are considering, we consider with this study that in 2050, the population in these cities will be between 70 and 80 million inhabitants. So that means that the human pressure on this coast is very, very important. Small-scale fisheries are very developed, and we have some interstate management of shared halieutic migratory stocks of pelagics that are managed by the Sub-Regional Commission of Fisheries for Western Africa. We have important reserves and prospects on hydrocarbon that are concerning near all the countries, and the exploitation of these reserves is just starting now. We observe a generalized erosion and coastal hazard, especially in zones with dense human occupation, with a strong interstate interdependence, because the sediments are distributed by longshore drift. That means that the actions that are implemented in one country will affect directly the neighbor country. For example, the Volta Dam that has been built in Ghana in 1962 has caused a very strong erosion in Togo and Benin. So, facing this situation, there is an increasing recognition of the benefits of natural infrastructure, sedimentary stock, preserved sedimentary stocks, mangrove, and this has been leading to the development of coastal adaptation strategies that are currently implemented. And I would like to highlight the situation of Senegal, which is really a pilot country with a lot of projects on resilience, ICZM, community MPAs. The Colonel Mamadou Sidibé was talking about it this morning, and community MPAs and nature-based solutions. So the Western Africa Economic and Monetary Union has been founded and launching in 2009 a regional coastal management scheme or master plan for the 11 countries that has been established in 2011 and updated in 2016 and 2020. This master plan led to strong support of donors, World Bank, France, EU, but unfortunately, we are not. There are few interstate initiatives. because due to individual country IDA credit agreements, the main achievements are through national program, and the regional dynamic has been a little bit put aside. We have a functional network of MPAs, which is the West African Marine Protected Area Network. That involves, this network involves 6 or 7 countries of the western facade of Western Africa. Here below, you see this map with the red zones, gray zones, and yellow zones. The red zones are already completely saturated. That means that the human occupation is near continuous all along the coast, with an important artificialization of coastal ecosystems. The yellow zone are zones where the coastal occupation, human occupation, is growing very fast and will reach the situation of the red zones. The gray zones are zones where the human occupation is not very dense, is very scattered, and because the conditions are adverse, there are coastal mangrove coast and desert coast. Now, for Central Africa, we have 6 countries. Also, we are in a context of a very sensitive and mobile coastline, mainly sedimentary. And we have some urban spots with urban sprawl, but very few. We have Douala in Cameroon, Libreville in Gabon, and Pointe-Noire in Congo. But out of these spots, the occupation of the coast remains very scattered and dispersed with low density of population. I have to mention that Libreville, which is the capital city of Gabon, is the only capital city of the Atlantic Basin that is surrounded by 3 marine protected areas. We will see it later. There is a long tradition of nature conservation in Central Africa, but this the conservation efforts historically have been focusing more on terrestrial and forest ecosystem in the Congo Basin. And we have a lot of protected areas, terrestrial protected areas that are also marine protected areas because they are coastal. There are important reserves on hydrocarbon that are intensively exploited for a long time in some countries. We observe also high sea piracy that requires a maritime surveillance effort that is developing. And we observe also some disagreements on the limit of exclusive economic zones in relation with mining and fisheries activities and resources. We have a regional comprehensive strategy for MPAs in this region that have been developed by EU some 5 years ago, but still not implemented because there is a lack of funding. No functional MPA network. Some 3 years ago, we had still a big protected area network at the regional scale, but more focusing on a terrestrial protected area. But this network is no more effective right now. So this is the situation in Western and Central Africa. Here you can see a map of the marine conservation network in Central Africa, and we can also observe the areas that are concerned by the Blue Gabon, that are involved into the Blue Gabon initiative that have been announced during the World Park Congress in Sydney in 2014, with the creation in Gabon of 9 marine parks and 11 aquatic reserves, and this initiative started in 2017. This system of marine conservation is covering 26% of Gabon's marine water of the exclusive economic zone, And this network is one of the largest marine protected area networks in all Africa. So, Transboundary existing MPAs as an initiative. We have very few. We have functional, we have 3 transboundary marine protected area, and some initiatives that are in progress, but until now there is no result. The first one is the biosphere reserve of the Senegal River Delta between Mauritania and Senegal, the north. The second one is between Senegal and Gambia, is the biosphere reserve of Noumi Saloum. The Saloum is already in Senegal, a biosphere reserve, but the Noumi National Park in the Gambia, not. So they are trying to access to the status of biosphere reserve for the Noumi National Park, and after that, merge both biosphere reserve to create a transboundary biosphere reserve. It is an initiative that it is still in progress. In Benin, we have the Mono Biosphere Reserve that have been created very recently in 2017, and between Togo and Benin. Also a pipeline, there is a pipeline offshore face to the coast of Benin and Togo, and there were the idea to create a marine reserve, a marine transboundary reserve, using the exclusion zone of the pipeline. But until now, this initiative has not been successful. In Central Africa, we have the Mayumba-Konkwati Transboundary Reserve, which is working quite well between Gabon and Congo. And there is one initiative to create a reserve between Cabinda, Cabinda, it's part of Angola, and Democratic Republic of Congo with the Mangrove Park. So very few initiatives at the continental level for this facade. So the Senegal Delta Biosphere Reserve was designed by UNESCO in 2005. And this site is based on a zonation system that combines protected areas as core areas of the Biosphere Reserve, including for Senegal, the National Park of Djoudj, Langue de Barbarie, and Ndiaye, and for the Mauritania's National Park of Gaouli. These areas are of special importance for migratory birds and are really, it's a very wide zone and really very important for the migration. We have also some buffer zones, including the Gumbel Reserve and Palm Forest, and transition area where local dwellers, cultivators, fishermen, herders, are recognized as the main users and managers of the resource. Despite the innovative feature of this model in terms of sustainable development and resource management and participatory governance, its legitimacy and efficiency are sometimes subject to debate. It's important to mention that this biosphere reserve is including the island of Saint-Louis, which is a World Heritage Site, and also to mention that this Mauritania-Senegal border was a place of a war that took place during in this zone during 1989 to 1991. The conflict began around the disputes over the two countries' river-Senegal border and grazing rights, and created thousands of refugees from both sides. So this transboundary protected area is also developing in a context where some conflicts have happened some years ago. Togo Benin, the reserve of the Mono, has been designated by UNESCO in 2017. The process started in 2013. And the Mono Valley also has historically experienced conflicts between local communities from Togo and Benin over the sharing of resource linked with the river. So it is a project supported by German cooperation, and the integral approach of the project has already led to important successes, both in managing the impacts of change and while at the same time promoting sustainable economic growth in the region, and also for the resolution of existing conflicts between communities on the border from Togo and communities from Benin. So the main achievement are the establishment of a transboundary monitoring system, the legal strengthening of resource control, the increased transparency in the management of natural resources, restoration of damaged areas, and sustainable management of resources, favoring local communities. Another dimension is given to the reduction of coastal risk. The Grand Popo area, you see at the south in Benin, which is at the border with Togo, is really a hotspot for erosion. It's really very affected years ago with important erosion. And it's clear that the maintenance and the improvement of the management of the river valley will help to have better sedimentary contribution to the maintenance of the coast. So it's a recent reserve, and it's very functional because also you have the German project that are supporting the development of the reserve. There is a pipeline that has been established and faced to Benin and Togo. And as I said, there were one initiative to create a transboundary offshore marine reserve, but until now, this initiative has not been successful. Now we go to Central Africa. Central Africa, we have a very strong potential for transboundary conservation. The reason is why the borders are for almost all the countries, not all, but at least for Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, and Congo, 4 countries. All the borders are located on the estuaries that constitute a set of hinge articulating the regional coastal system. And in each case, conservation areas already exist on both sides of the estuary. Between Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea, we have in Cameroon the National Park of Campoman, which is a very, very nice reserve, forest reserve, but also coastal. It is located on the estuary, and the natural reserve of Rio Campo in the Equatorial Guinea side. Regarding the boundaries between Equatorial Guinea and Gabon, we have all a complex of reserves. We will provide more details later. And between Gabon and Congo, we have the Mayumba-Konkwati reserve. It's clear that the management effectiveness of these reserves is not so high until now. Maybe, perhaps in Gabon and Congo, it's okay, but in Equatorial Guinea, we are not sure that the management effectiveness is really in good conditions. But we think that creating transboundary area will increase the emulation between both countries, and this emulation can enhance management effectiveness, probably. So there is a strong potential, but which is not transformed into results until now. In the case of Equatorial Guinea and Gabon, we have the Corisco Bay. The Corisco Bay is probably the most coral-rich area in continental Africa. African corals are not building corals, but are very interesting because they have been really threatened. We don't have big extension of coral, and generally they are endemic, and they are very close to other coral formation in Brazil. So it's very interesting to try to protect the remaining coral of Central Africa. Here we have many reserves. In the Equatorial Guinea side, we have the scientific reserve of Playa Ndi at the north. We have the reserve of the Biomini at the east. And in the Gabon side, we have the Akanda National Park, the south. We have the Arboretum Raponda Walker, and we have the natural reserve of the Corisco Elobeyes Islands. So we have also now with Blue Gabon an extension of the Akanda Marine Park. So it's really an interesting opportunity for creating a transboundary reserve. But the problem is that there are still some disagreements between Gabon and Equatorial Guinea in exclusive economic zone limits, and these disagreements are not favoring the negotiation and the cooperation between both countries. For the Mayumba Konkwati Gabon-Congo Reserve, this transboundary MPA is of international importance for leatherback turtles, and it's working quite well. The collaboration between Gabon and Congo has been historically very good, but still we have some disagreement between Gabon and Congo on the delimitation of EEZ and fishery rights also. So the last information I got some months ago, that was the situation was a little bit tense between the two countries. In conclusion, we have in Western and Central Africa exclusive economic zones and territorial sea at stake due to competition for fisheries resources, due to strategic management of hydrocarbon reserves. All of African coasts are concerned to varying degrees, and issues also on piracy, not generalized, but existing especially in the Guinea Gulf. So these resources can determine issues of sovereignty that can hamper interstate cooperation or conservation, sometimes also hampered by national inward-looking attitude. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Jean-Jacques. I think this is an exhaustive revision of the situation in the Atlantic coast of Africa, or at least West and Central Africa. So it's very much appreciated. So we still have a few minutes for questions. If our audience wants to ask any of our speakers, you have comments, interest in any specific aspect of those transboundary, either the agreement of Paragus or the situation in Africa, please raise your hand. Yes, Colonel Mamadou Sidibé.
Merci beaucoup. C'est juste par rapport à la présentation juste de Jean-Jacques. Je voulais juste apporter un plus dans le cadre de la coopération sous-régionale au niveau de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Donc, il y a l'initiative régionale Ramsar, Sénégal, qu'on appelle, il y a le Sénégal ouest, il y a le Wakowet, qui regroupe 13 pays sur la côte ouest africaine, de la Mauritanie au Nigeria, et qui travaille en coopération pour la conservation de la biodiversité marine et côtière de leur zone côtière. Et en plus de ces initiatives, il y a le PRCM qui travaille en étroite collaboration avec les pays côtiers ouest africains. Donc, et il y a le programme de la phase 2 de gestion durable des zones humides. Hein? Donc, GDSAO, en Afrique de l'Ouest qui travaille avec 8 pays déjà, de 8 pays, donc à partir du Mali, Mauritanie, Guinée-Conakry, Guinée-Bissau, jusqu'à Côte d'Ivoire. Donc, qui est géré au niveau du centre de suivi écologique au niveau du Sénégal. Donc, il y a un consortium. Donc c'est juste pour vous apporter un peu ce plus-là. Donc, je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting to see these different levels of cooperation that are happening. So this was exactly what I said at the beginning. When we talk about regional cooperation between countries, there are different options from the classical agreements that are more at high governmental level and requires a lot of legislations and things, very long processes. But we have also a lot of different, let's say, less formal, but not informal at all, because all those structures you mentioned, Mr. CDB, are also permanent structures, so, and have their own governance systems. And then we have even less formal interactions, or maybe more going to the ground. So I think this is very important to have all this in mind, to take advantage of each of the options, depending on what we want to achieve and what are the challenges in a certain moment, in a certain region. So I'm very sorry, because I have a commitment with the Monaco ambassador in Madrid, and I have to leave the session in 5 minutes. But before, and then I will give, I will pass the floor for the closing to my colleague Philip Forster, also from the EU Ocean Governance, from GOPA. So he will just do the final words and just give you some more information about what you will receive about the event. But before this, I will ask a question to Maxime, and even if I leave, you can just complete your question. From your experience in Pedagogues, what do you consider that is the most difficult of the challenges you have today? Because you really show a big number of different elements, all of them interconnected, so that it gives really a clear vision of the complexity of an agreement such Pedagogues. But from all these different actions that you have there and targets, what do you consider is the most difficult and maybe surprisingly the most easier, or the ones that are really going faster and with more with less complexity? I think this will be helpful for our audience today to really see behind the structure of a treaty or an agreement what is the level of implementation. And I just say goodbye, everyone. I really enjoy being with you, and I hope to be soon again with other events. So Maxime, the floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you for this question. So I will be very brief. What is easy, I think, is the cooperation between the countries. We are now, it's 1 year that we are working on the 2022-2027 management plan. We are going to adopt it in one month, more or less. I think that it's the ideas, the synergy is very, very good between the three parties. There's a really will to move on and to enhance and to give to the Paragus agreements the means to reach its objectives, in particular with the two instruments that we will set up in the first months of 2022, which are the Paragus Voluntary Fund, in which everybody is called to contribute if is wishes to, and also with the working groups, which will be larger, broader, with a large call for interest in participating into. As far as the difficulties is concerned, from my perspective, I think that until now, which was a bit difficult, was to put each actor together, and it's really the effort of the new management plan to bring every stakeholder together in the Paragus community. So I think that we are in a very good momentum to step up and to also implement, harmonize. So I think we are really in a good trend, and I'm really confident for the future of the next 6 years. I hope that I answered to your question, Puri.
Hello, everyone. Since Puri left, I'll be taking over. And before I start with the closing remarks, we're good with time, so I actually thought to give the opportunity to participants if they would have any other questions to Maxime or Jean-Jacques. Okay, so there are no further questions. Okay, then I will proceed with the closing session. So firstly, for those who do not know me, my name is Philip Forster, and I'm a project manager working on the Ocean Governance Project. Also, before I start with the closing remarks, I would like to use the opportunity to provide some information on the project structure. So let me just share my screen for a second. It's here. Can everyone see it? Okay, I see people nodding.
Yeah, it is all good.
Okay, perfect. So the EU Ocean Governance Project is, as mentioned, a EU project commissioned by the European Commission and under the FBI instrument, which stands for Financial Partnership Instrument. The project manager from the EU is Mrs. Helena Laxo, and she's also supported by a steering committee, which consists of members from various units of the EU, who have technical experience related to the activities of the project. The implementation is conducted by a consortium consisting of 3 companies. We have GOPA Consultants, which is lead, based in Germany. It's a management consultancy company specialized in development projects. We also have BNS Brussels, which is a sister company of GOPA, working in the same sector. And we have WWF Indonesia. But I would like to stress out that even though WWF Indonesia is part of the consortium, we are also receiving significant contributions from other WWF offices, and I would like to thank them for this. Considering the project team, I will not go into details, but the project director is Dr. James Walsh, actually. We have a financial manager, Ms. Duan. We have a technical coordinator, which is Puri, which just left. I'm the junior coordinator, and we have a core team of experts, which a lot of them you actually saw in the sessions taking place recently. This virtual learning exchange was organized actually in the 3rd component of the Ocean Governance Project. And as you might remember from previous sessions mentioned by Puri and Vera, the objective of this component was to strengthen knowledge exchange between Atlantic and Southeast Asia marine and coastal regions. This exchange was organized together with the CTI-CFF Regional Secretariat. Since the usual CTI regional exchange could not take place face-to-face due to the COVID pandemic, this event has been made virtual to compensate for the lack of the physical event. And I would like to take to use this opportunity to thank CTI-CFF and their members for the great cooperation in the organization and implementation of this event. Specifically, the CTI-CFF Secretariat, Dr. Rajuddin, and the MPA Working Group, and Dr. Nora and her team for the wonderful support. This event is just the first event of multiple events which will be organized in the future as a part of the aforementioned component 3 of the Ocean Governance Project. We will also organize capacity building and knowledge exchange events for the 1st and 4th component. Namely, the first one considers marine and coastal restoration in Southeast Asia, while the 4th one concerns improving the basis for dialogue of marine and coastal stakeholders in the Southeast Asia region. We are very happy to continue our cooperation with the CTI-CFF throughout the duration of the Ocean Governance Project. I would also like to thank all of the participants in this, for participating in this wonderful virtual learning exchange for the last 3 days, especially the ones who are staying up very late or waking up really early to attend the sessions. I have checked the figures on the registered participants. So 117 participants have been registered. And what I was happy about is that there was a more or less 50-50 distribution between the participants from the Atlantic and from the Southeast Asia region. So, as mentioned, we are quite pleased with the numbers and the exchanges that took place. However, we also hope that the knowledge exchanges will continue beyond these sessions through the contacts established within these sessions. And we would also like to thank all of the presenters for sharing your experiences in your interesting and, I have to say, colorful presentations. It is clear that a lot of effort was invested in the preparation of these presentations. And we would also like to apologize to the time constraints which forced us to cut some discussion short. But as mentioned before, there will be more events which will allow to discuss subjects of interest in greater detail. A big thanks also to the European delegations, which have been excellent providing advisory support and facilitating the contacts in the Southeast Asia region. And lastly, I would like to thank the staff of Milton Events for their IT support and the interpreters who made this event possible. I have to mention that you will all receive an evaluation questionnaire for this event. We would kindly ask if you could fill it out because it will help us improve future events and the quality of future events. So depending on where you are, I wish you a good rest of the day or a good night, and hopefully, would hope that you all stay safe. Thank you very much. And in this regard, we can close the session.